Hi guys, Knife Edge UK here, and today I wanted to bring you sort of a little showcase on a knife which isn't being made at the moment, but it's a classic of the custom world really, so I thought I would do a little video on this one that I'm lucky enough to have here. This is the Ti Guthrie Scout in hand rub satin Wharncliffe blade with a titanium raindrop finish handle, which we'll talk about in a minute. And yeah, so before we go any further, let's do a few size comparisons just so you've got an idea, as is the way of YouTube reviews, because, you know, conformity is key. This is it next to a Kapara, it next to a 3.5 inch XM18, and next to a Sebenza 21 large. And because I like to never ever do this the same way twice, just to annoy people, here it is next to a ruler. So you got about a 3.3, total length of blades about 3.3, 3.4, and then it's a little over a 4-inch handle. So, this is a bit of a classic of the custom world. Ti Guthrie is a South African knife maker, a very, very, very good one and highly regarded. You'll find other videos on this knife by guys like Dr. Franke and others. And he doesn't make the Scout at the moment. He made the Ranger originally, which was like a larger version of the Scout, then the Scout, and now he's making his Aero model in kind of small, you know, he does a few here and there. The Scout was kind of the model that kind of brought him to a lot of people's attention, I think. This version is in this kind of crazy harpoon, Wharncliffe, sheep's cliff worn blade. It's very, very unique and very Ti Guthrie, and the handle is also very Ti Guthrie, both in the very interesting ergonomic lines of the handle, but also in this raindrop finish, which is stunning. An awful lot of these have, I say an awful lot, there's not that many of them, I don't think, but a lot of them have, you know, a carbon fibre or, you know, another composite handle front to them, which is really nice, and they often have sort of speed holes in them as well. You don't see that many with the raindrop on both sides and in full titanium, so given that I absolutely love the raindrop finish, this one is really nice for me. The way he does the raindrop finish is that he effectively mills in these holes by hand on a drill press. If I remember rightly from what he told me, he masks the surface, drills these holes, anodizes, then removes the mask, which gives you this lovely sort of two-tone blasted titanium and these, you know, very randomized dots of blue polished titanium, or, you know, satin titanium in the middle. It's lovely. The blade is M390 on this one. It's got a very, very beautiful, very even hand rub satin and a really nice contrasting satin on this very interesting and really well done swedge. This is super even on both sides, very impressive, and a little blue titanium thumb stud. The only thing on this knife that's not made by Jason, I think, is the screws probably, but also this slightly generic kind of South African. You see a lot of these pivots. Incidentally, I believe he's in Norway now, not South Africa, but he was born and raised in South Africa. And a really nice pivot-collared hex bit screw on the back. Very cool Y-style standoff-based pocket clip. This works really, really well. This is a great clip. And the only branding you have on the whole knife is this little JG stamp on the clip. Really nicely done. Another cool thing about his knives is that he has a tungsten insert, which is his own thing. It's basically a rod of tungsten that goes into the lock bar. And it works really, really well, gives a really, really good lockup. If you go onto his website, I believe you can read all about why that's as good as it is and why it lasts well. I won't go too heavily into it. It works absolutely fine. Do I think it's necessary? No, not necessarily, but it works well. It's good, and I do like variety in different things across knives in my collection, so it's a cool thing to have. Lock bar relief is internally milled, which is nice, gives a very clean look, particularly with this lovely raindrop on the outside. It's really well done. Fantastic finger chamfer. Let's go into ergonomics, shall we? It feels amazing in hand. It locks in beautifully. It has this kind of dip, which is kind of reminiscent of something maybe like this Hindra Jurassic, or indeed the Hindra Eclipse or any of the ZT versions of that, it just sits in really, really well. It's quite an interesting thing. And then the jimping that he does is really curious as well. It's widely spaced, and it manages to simultaneously be very shallow and yet extremely grippy, but not in an uncomfortable way. It's very, very, very good jimping. And then because of this harpoon, you can reach up, and incidentally, he did drop points with this harpoon in them as well, which I absolutely love as well, where you can reach up and it really feels secure, like you've got power behind the cut. It's excellent. So ergonomically, it's great. It fits quite well in a couple of different grips as well, which is surprising. Then the other thing that's quite unique and interesting about Jason's knives is the fact that these run on Teflon. And I think Jason was basically the guy who made Teflon actions, or Teflon as a pivot choice, okay again in the knife world. And I know that for a lot of people that watch certain reviewers, Nick, I love you, but I don't agree with you on Teflon. There's a lot of dislike of Teflon out there. And sure, if you don't like it, the elements of it are a matter of taste, and that's fine. But when it's done this well, Teflon has a super low coefficient of drag. It's very smooth. It requires almost no maintenance. It's just a great pivot material. And this, not only is it smoother, it's smoother in terms of like just pushing it than almost any bearing knife that you'll ever feel, because there's no balls running, there's no moving parts going on in the pivot for it to create that sense of movement. It's so smooth. It's hard to believe how smooth it is. Now, there's lots of other Teflon knives which I love. Here's one of my other absolute favourite Teflon actions. This is the Hindra MP1, and this is fantastic as well. It's super smooth, super snappy. It feels, it has its own unique feel, and it's not stick slippy. It's just beautiful and buttery and glassy. This takes that to another level, because this is so smooth that it almost drops shut, and not in that way that you get on, say, sometimes you get it on Spanto blades from Hindra, where there's a lot of weight out towards the tip of the knife, so it kind of drags the blade down, and that's lovely as well. But this has just a superb action. It's fantastic. The detent is perfectly set. It pops out. It has that sense again of it being the detent braking that's launching the blade rather than your thumb launching the blade, and it just closes beautifully with so little effort. It's fantastic. Also sweeps open stunningly smoothly as well. It's great. It's a close to as perfect a knife action as you're ever likely to get. Negatives. I wish it was a double-sided thumb stud, mainly because I know that there isn't quite as much room, but I'm sure it would reverse flick. Certainly this one, am I going to be able to do it now? Yeah, this reverse flicks from the other side really, really well, and all I have to do is catch the very top of the stud, and it will reverse flick. So it would have been really nice if there was a stud on the other side. What else is negative? This is a handmade knife. Plunge grinds aren't 100% even. Not, I'm being massively nitpicky here, and there's a little bit more chatter in the lock bar relief than there could be, the lock bar cut than there could be. We're talking about the most minor things in the world. This is a virtually flawless knife. So that is the Jason Guthrie Scout. It's well worth all of the hype that you see around this knife, and the secondary prices on these are very high at the moment. They're probably not as high as they have been. I'm not sure if they've ever been higher, but these are, or were, I think about $800, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on your spec, and certainly if you have, Damasteel or Damacor blades or whatever else, they go up. But they were about that sort of table price, which is, ridiculously good value for a handmade knife of this quality. But on the secondary market right now, dollars wise, $1,600 to $2,000 is probably where they're sitting most of the time. This one is just absolutely beautiful. The gentleman that let me have this, thank you so much, man. I absolutely love it. Thanks very much, guys. That is the Jason Guthrie Scout.